Have you ever felt how certain people drain all your energy? That feeling of exhaustion after being with someone, as if something vital had been extracted from you. It's not a coincidence. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists in history, understood this perfectly. There are people who, consciously or unconsciously, absorb our vital force. And today, we're going to discover how to identify them, and most importantly, how to protect ourselves. Before continuing, I want to ask you, how many times have you allowed someone to cross your boundaries just to avoid conflict? How many times have you felt that discomfort in your chest when being near certain people, but ignored the signal? Jung would say that sensation isn't coincidental. It's your unconscious warning you that something isn't aligned with your true essence. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded with messages pushing us to please others, to sacrifice our well-being for others. Be kind. Don't be selfish. Think of others before yourself. And while generosity is a virtue, Jung reminds us that there's a danger in forgetting ourselves. Because every time we ignore our needs to satisfy others, especially when those others are toxic, we're betraying our own soul. Jung developed the concept of the shadow, that part of us containing everything we prefer not to see, what's repressed, what's denied. And here comes the fascinating part. Often, toxic people activate our shadow. They touch those vulnerable and wounded parts we don't want to face. That's why it's so hard for us to move away from them. It's not just about them, it's about what they awaken in us. Imagine for a moment your energy as a luminous field surrounding you. When you're in balance, that field is strong, vibrant. But there are people who, due to their own internal voids, try to feed off that light. Jung spoke about how some individuals, unable to generate their own psychic energy, seek to extract it from others. Does that sound familiar? The first step to protect yourself is identifying the signs. How do you recognize a toxic person according to Jungian psychology? First, pay attention to how you feel after interacting with them. Exhausted? Confused? Doubting yourself? Toxic people have an extraordinary ability to plant doubts in your mind, to make you question your reality. Jung called this gaslighting before the term became popular. Another sign is constant dramatization. Toxic people seem to attract chaos, living in a perpetual state of crisis. And the most curious thing is that somehow they always need you to rescue them. This pattern isn't a coincidence. Jung explained that some people use drama as a way to feed their ego, to keep attention centered on themselves. It's a subtle but devastating emotional vampirism. Constant criticism is another indicator. Not the constructive criticism that helps us grow, but the kind that seems designed to diminish us. Jung observed that many people project their own insecurities onto others. So, when someone constantly criticizes you, they're probably talking more about their own fears and defects than yours. Lack of responsibility is also a key characteristic. Toxic people rarely assume the consequences of their actions. There's always an external culprit, an extenuating circumstance, a reason why it's not their fault. Jung explained this through projection. It's easier to see defects outside than face them within. And perhaps the most subtle but equally dangerous, the inability to celebrate your achievements. Jung spoke extensively about envy as a destructive force in relationships. Toxic people cannot bear to see you shine because your light highlights their darkness. That's why they'll minimize your successes, change the subject when you share good news, or find some way to tarnish your joy. Do any of these signs sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. We all, at some point, have fallen into the orbit of toxic people. The crucial question is, how do we protect ourselves? Jung firmly believed in the importance of psychological boundaries. These boundaries aren't barriers that isolate us from the world, but healthy membranes that decide what enters and what doesn't into our energetic space. Establishing clear boundaries is the first step to protect yourself. This begins with something seemingly simple, but profoundly powerful: the word no. When was the last time you said no without feeling the need to explain yourself, without feeling guilty? Jung teaches us that our capacity to deny is as important as our capacity to affirm. Every no you pronounce is a yes to yourself, to your well-being, to your inner peace. But establishing boundaries with toxic people isn't an easy task. They've developed sophisticated mechanisms to make you feel guilty when you try to protect yourself. They'll use phrases like, "if you really loved me," or "after all I've done for you." Recognizing these tactics is essential to not fall into the trap. The next step in your protection is what Jung would call shadow integration. This means facing and accepting those vulnerable parts of you that toxic people often manipulate. Do you stay in harmful relationships out of fear of loneliness? Do you allow others to belittle you because deep down you feel you deserve it? Understanding these internal dynamics is crucial to break destructive patterns. Jung spoke of individuation as the process of becoming oneself, of integrating all parts of our psyche to achieve wholeness. And part of that process implies recognizing that you deserve relationships that nurture you, not ones that empty you. You deserve people who celebrate your light, not those who try to dim it. A powerful technique that Jung might recommend is conscious visualization. Imagine that you're surrounded by a field of golden light. This light represents your boundaries, your sacred space. When you interact with others, visualize how this light remains intact, how nothing can penetrate it without your permission. This exercise isn't mere fantasy. It's a way to program your subconscious to maintain healthy boundaries. Another effective strategy is emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or insensitive, but understanding that you're not responsible for fixing others. Jung was clear about this. Each individual must undertake their own healing journey. You can accompany but not carry the weight of another. When a toxic person tries to make you responsible for their happiness, remember, that's not your burden. The practice of silence can also be transformative. Toxic people thrive on drama, on reaction. When you decide not to feed that cycle, when you choose silence over reactive response, you take away their power. Jung greatly valued silence as a space for self-reflection and inner strength. Now let me offer you a deeper perspective on why some people become toxic. Jung believed we all have a persona, the mask we present to the world. Some individuals have constructed personas so elaborate to hide their wounds that they've lost connection with their true self. Their toxicity is in essence a cry for help from a fragmented soul. This doesn't mean you should tolerate it or that it's your responsibility to heal them. But understanding the root can help you depersonalize their actions. It's not about you, it's about their own unresolved pain. Jung would say, these people haven't integrated their shadow, and that's why they project their darkest aspects onto others. Perhaps one of Jung's most powerful teachings for dealing with toxic people is the concept of synchronicity. Jung believed external events reflect our internal state. Thus, the toxic people we attract into our lives may be mirrors of our own unhealed wounds. Ask yourself, what am I learning from this relationship? What part of me needs attention and healing? This approach doesn't seek to blame you for attracting toxicity, but to empower you to break the cycle. Because when you heal those vulnerable parts, when you reinforce your sense of self-worth, you'll naturally begin to repel what doesn't resonate with your elevated frequency. A fascinating aspect of Jung's philosophy is his understanding of archetypes. These are universal patterns residing in the collective unconscious. One relevant to our discussion is the shadow archetype, that dark energy we all possess. Highly toxic people are often dominated by their shadow without awareness of it. Your challenge isn't to fight against that darkness, but to recognize it without allowing it to consume you. Another significant archetype is the savior, that impulse to rescue others at your own expense. If you find yourself constantly trying to save toxic people, it might be that this archetype is operating within you. Jung would invite us to ask ourselves, am I really helping, or am I perpetuating a dysfunctional pattern? As you advance in your process of energy protection, it's crucial to understand that some relationships simply need to end. Jung wasn't an advocate for maintaining destructive connections out of mere attachment or fear. He believed in the transformative power of letting go of what no longer serves us. Sometimes, the most powerful way to say yes to yourself is by saying goodbye to what harms you. This decision can be painful, especially when it involves family members or longtime friends. Our society places great emphasis on maintaining family ties at all costs. But Jung understood that true family isn't always blood-related, but those who nurture your soul. You have the right and responsibility to create an environment that supports your growth, even if that means distancing yourself from those who don't. When you decide to move away from a toxic person, you might face resistance, not just from them but from others around you. But it's your mother. But their family. You should forgive. These phrases seek to keep you in the dysfunctional pattern. Jung would invite you to listen to your inner voice above these external pressures. Authentic compassion includes compassion toward yourself. An interesting phenomenon occurs when you begin to establish firm boundaries. Some people will respect your decision and adjust their behavior, while others will increase their toxicity. This latter group is revealing their true nature. They cannot tolerate your autonomy because it challenges the control they believed they had over you. Jung would call this an ego crisis. As you implement these protection strategies, you might feel guilt or doubt. Am I being too selfish? Should I give another chance? These thoughts are normal, but Jung reminds us that true selfishness lies in emptying yourself to fill others. Authentic love, both toward yourself and others, implies honesty and healthy boundaries. Now let's talk about how to rebuild your energy field after toxic interactions. Jung believed in the healing power of nature. Spending time outdoors, connecting with the elements, can restore your vital energy. Water, especially, has purifying properties for our energy field. A simple bath with sea salt can be a powerful ritual to cleanse absorbed negative energy. Mindful meditation is also an invaluable tool. Jung was one of the first Western psychologists to recognize the value of meditative practices. Through meditation, you can visualize how you release foreign energies and strengthen your own field. It's not mysticism, it's deep psychology working at an energetic level. Dream work was another method Jung considered vital. Our dreams often reveal subconscious dynamics we don't perceive in a waking state. Pay attention. Do you frequently dream about certain people? Are there recurring patterns of persecution or loss? These dreams might be showing you toxic relationships that need attention. An aspect rarely discussed is how toxic people can manipulate your own emotions against you. If you're naturally empathetic or compassionate, they might use those qualities to keep you trapped in harmful dynamics. Nobody understands me like you. Only you can help me. Jung would invite us to distinguish between true compassion and emotional manipulation. It's fascinating how Jung linked our susceptibility to toxic people with our childhood experiences. If you grew up in an environment where your emotional needs weren't met, you might be unconsciously seeking to fill that void through relationships that replicate that pattern. Recognizing these early connections can be the first step toward liberation. Another relevant Jungian concept is the complex. A complex is a group of charged ideas and emotions that influence our behavior without us noticing. Toxic people have a special talent for activating our complexes, especially those related to guilt, abandonment, or lack of worth. Identifying these triggers gives you the power to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. As you advance on your path of energy protection, you might discover that some relationships you considered toxic are actually mirrors reflecting aspects of yourself that need healing. Jung called this projection. Not all difficult people in your life are toxic. Some are simply reflecting parts of you that you've denied. The key is discerning the difference. This distinction is crucial. A person who challenges you to grow, who shows you your blind spots, might be uncomfortable, but not necessarily toxic. A genuinely toxic person, on the other hand, seeks to control you, diminish you, or manipulate you for their own benefit. Jung would invite us to develop discernment to distinguish between the two. One of the most powerful tools Jung offered us is the concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. When you're firmly rooted in your authentic self, toxic people lose their power over you. They can no longer manipulate your identity because you know exactly who you are. This self-knowledge is your strongest shield. Jung also believed in the power of personal symbols. What images or symbols make you feel protected and empowered? It might be a majestic tree, a specific animal, or even an abstract symbol that resonates with you. Incorporating these symbols into your daily life, through objects, visualizations, or art, can strengthen your energy field against negative influences. An interesting phenomenon Jung observed is how our physical body responds to toxic interactions. Perhaps you feel a knot in your stomach, tension in your neck, or a headache when near certain people. These aren't simple physical symptoms, they're messages from your unconscious alerting you to an energetic danger. Learning to listen to these bodily signals is vital for your protection. When you start taking serious measures to protect your energy, something extraordinary happens. Your intuition sharpens. Jung considered intuition a fundamental psychological function, as important as thinking or feeling. As you free yourself from toxic influences, your inner voice becomes clearer, more reliable. Decisions that once seemed confusing now present themselves with crystal clarity. This inner clarity leads you to what Jung called synchronicity, that mysterious concordance between your internal and external worlds. You begin to notice meaningful patterns, connections that previously went unnoticed. The right people appear at the right time, and opportunities align with your deepest needs. This isn't magic, it's the natural result of living in harmony with your true essence. As you continue on this path of protection and self-discovery, it's important to remember that you're not alone. Jung believed in the existence of the collective unconscious, that vast network of shared knowledge connecting all humanity. When you struggle to protect your energy, you're participating in an ancestral battle that resonates with millions of souls across time and space. This knowledge can be deeply comforting. Your efforts to establish healthy boundaries, to honor your inner truth, to free yourself from toxic relationships, aren't isolated acts. They're part of a collective movement toward consciousness, toward the psychological integrity that Jung envisioned for all humanity. What about forgiving those who have been toxic to you? Jung had a nuanced view of forgiveness. He didn't see it as an act of wiping the slate clean, but as a process of integration. Forgiving doesn't mean allowing someone to harm you again. It means releasing the power their toxicity has over your emotional well-being. It's an act you perform for yourself, not for them. This authentic forgiveness can only occur when you've established firm boundaries and fully processed your emotions. Trying to forgive prematurely, while you're still vulnerable to manipulation, can perpetuate the cycle of abuse. Jung would invite us to be patient with this process, to honor our healing rhythm. A powerful practice to close this healing cycle is what we might call power reclamation. Visualize all the parts of your energy that you've ceded to toxic people. Imagine this energy returning to you, filling you with vitality and strength. This isn't an exercise in fantasy. It's a conscious reprogramming of your energy field. As you reclaim your power, you might feel a mix of emotions: relief, sadness for lost time, perhaps even anger. Jung teaches us that all these emotions are valid, essential parts of the individuation process. Allow yourself to feel them fully, without judgment. Each honored emotion is a step toward integration. Now, looking toward the future, how do you avoid falling back into toxic patterns? Jung would offer simple but profound advice. Stay conscious. Consciousness is your most powerful protection. When you know your patterns, when you're attentive to subtle signals, when you honor your intuition, you'll naturally gravitate toward relationships that nurture your soul. This state of expanded consciousness isn't a final goal, but a continuous process. Jung saw life as a perpetual journey of self-discovery. Each interaction, each relationship, each challenge is an opportunity to know yourself more deeply, to integrate more aspects of your being. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you know yourself, the less vulnerable you are to toxic manipulation. The more you honor your boundaries, the more you attract relationships that respect those boundaries. It's a virtuous circle of self-discovery and energy protection. Do you feel inside that the time has come to take action? Perhaps you've tolerated toxic behaviors for too long, convincing yourself they would change or that they weren't that bad. Jung would tell you to trust that inner voice urging you toward change. It's your higher self guiding you toward greater well-being. Remember that protecting your energy isn't a selfish act. On the contrary, when you maintain your energy field clean and strong, you can offer the world your best version. You can be present for those who truly value you. You can create from a place of fullness instead of lack. Your well-being isn't negotiable. It's a prerequisite for everything else you wish to achieve. Now, before concluding this journey together, I want to leave you with an invitation. What small step can you take today to better protect your energy? Perhaps it's establishing a clear boundary with someone specific. Maybe it's allowing yourself to fully feel an emotion you've been repressing. Or perhaps it's simply taking 5 minutes to breathe consciously and reconnect with your center. Whatever it is, commit to taking it. And remember, you're not alone on this path. Thousands of people are awakening to the importance of energy protection, of authenticity, of living from the soul and not from fear. Each time you choose to honor your boundaries, you're adding your light to this collective movement. If this message has resonated with you, be part of this conversation. Share your experiences in the comments. Tell me about that moment when you recognized a toxic relationship, or that boundary you finally had the courage to establish. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message, share this video with them. Sometimes all we need to initiate profound change is to feel we're not alone in our experience. Before we say goodbye, I want to thank you for this shared time, for your openness to explore these deep truths. Jung believed that true change in the world begins with the individual willing to face their own shadow, to reclaim their power, to live from their authentic essence. You are that individual. Your journey matters. Your well-being matters. And the world needs your light, shining in all its intensity, without filters or interference. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the depths of the human soul. Remember, your energy is sacred. Protect it like the treasure it is. Until next time.